Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Ben and I'm a self-taught web developer who went from zero to paid full stack in 8 months via the Odin project. And in today's video, I wanted to focus again on the topic of AI and my thoughts on whether or not engineers, software developers should be worried. If you like this kind of content, please do consider subscribing and leaving a comment below with your thoughts. I really want to know what you think about this as well. So Devin was just released and there's a lot of headlines plugging Devin as the thing that's the AI programmer, the AI software engineer, the thing that's going to replace developers. A lot of sensationalism out there, a lot of people worried, especially people I think who are getting into the space, not sure whether or not software engineering or web development is the right path for them, purely because they're wondering whether or not they're going to have a job in the next couple of years because AI is touted to replace them. I think a really important consideration when we're talking about technology disruptions in any industry, and in this case software development and AI, I think we really need to talk about timelines first, because you could make the blanket claim that AI will replace developers. Okay, great. When? When exactly? You're probably right if we're thinking about a long enough timeline. And to steal the words of Tyler Durden, on a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone is 0. And it's probably going to be the same for software development as an industry. There are many industries in history that have been completely upended and the workforce downsized due to technology. It stands to reason that we may get there with AI one day, okay? But I still think that that's a ways off. I think it's still far enough off that web development and software engineering is still a viable career with good prospects for anyone who's wanting to get into it today. So I'm thinking, maybe 5-10 year timeline. I still think there's a very safe window to be a human software engineer. Okay, and I think there's a lot of sensationalism. AI is very cool. The way it helps us now, it is very useful. And developers who I think are in touch with the way things are going to be using AI to their advantage to become more efficient. Leverage AI where AI is useful for kind of boilerplate code, maybe writing tests, but keep the humans around for where you need humans, and that is turning concepts, abstract thinking into solutions in code, right? The human is just the guide for most of this process right now, and I still think will be for a little while longer. And there's this post on LinkedIn that I thought was a really good sum of kind of how I feel and what my sentiments are around the buzz of AI right now, and specifically this Devin AI. So there's this gent here, Santiago Valderrama, and his tagline is, "I tell stories about technology and teach ... So in 1994, people told me programming was for nerds and that I should become a doctor or a lawyer instead. 10 years later, they told me that someone from India or the Philippines would take my job for $5 an hour. When that didn't happen, no code became an existential threat. I was finally doomed. In 2021, it was Codex, then Copilot, then ChatGPT. Every time people told me programming is dead. Last week, a company released a demo of the first AI software engineer. That's Devin. This is it. I should start looking for a far now, right? Reality is different. The demand for good programmers, has never been higher before. Today, in the age of AI, few things will make you more valuable than knowing how to write good software. Learn to code is the summary. And I think that this sums up the sentiments of AI as it is right now very well. There have been many threats to software engineering, software development in the past 20 years. And they've never really come to fruition. The bold claims that they would be replacing developers will go the way of the dodo and become extinct, have not come true. There's so much sensationalism. And, it stands to reason that there's some people trying to sell products that are going to say these things are capable of, more than they perhaps are. There's lots of people who like to write articles, who need clicks, who are going to make sensationalist headlines to try and get people to click their link and drum up fear. Okay, there's lots of reasons why people are going to be touting these things as the next big thing. But I think really no one can say for sure, and at least the proof is in the pudding. ChatGPT isn't replacing any developers. From any comments that I've seen about Devin and people playing around with it, they are not that impressed with it. I mean, it's impressive, but in terms of replacing a software developer, it's nowhere near it yet. If there are significant advances in AI, and I'm talking significant beyond what we can imagine right now, then perhaps, this conversation will take a different turn at some point in the future. But for now, I'm very comfortable being a web developer, having this as my career, continuing to learn and grow within this career. And furthermore, being a web developer who's aspiring to be a good software developer as well. And that's a key word, good, because there's lots of people calling themselves software developers out there. The jobs will be there for the good ones, especially those who know how to leverage AI to be more productive. And even if and when AI does get to a point where it starts replacing maybe say junior developers, I don't know, where it starts replacing developers, there are so many companies out there that are built on intellectual property. Most companies are, right? And their bottom line depends on their ability to keep that secret. How many companies out there, especially big ones, are going to be willing to let some third-party software come into their code base and know exactly every single line of code in that code base, where it could be exported out to some third party who now owns or has your code? Who owns the code? If the AI writes the code, who owns the code? There's so many unknowns here that need to be established. There's no precedent set yet. We have no idea what kind of integration AI will even have in most companies. Because if most companies are smart, they'll be very cautious about allowing some third-party AI to come in and write their code for them. It's a very precarious situation to be in. So for that reason alone, I think the uptake is going to be slower than people who are writing these sensationalist headlines believe it will be. And to be honest, I think they're all just hype. A lot of them are just hype. AI is impressive, but it is not replacing developers yet. My final thought here is in his second point, Santiago's second point here. 10 years later, they told me that someone from India or the Philippines would take my job for $5 an hour. This is such a good point. There are so many skilled developers in other countries where they are able and willing to work for $5 or some low rate comparable to westernized countries. And they have not replaced developers in those westernized countries. Westernized countries are still paying developers much higher salaries. Look at the States. Developers' salaries are very high, the highest in the world. Every single one of those companies could have outsourced their development to a third world country, or third world, but a developing country, could be third world, for someone who's willing, very competent and capable, but willing to work for much less. And it hasn't happened. Why is this? Because there's a lot of intangible and tangible benefit to having developers who are within your country, within countries that you have trust in of their legal system. There's a lot of value of having people being able to come to an office in the same time zones, who operate under the same laws as you. So if you screw them over or screw the company over, there is legal standing, right? There's a lot of other reasons why we're still hiring developers, and quality is another thing. Maybe the quality is overall going to be better in your home country. Maybe they understand the market better. Maybe they understand the product better. So there's lots of factors here. I can't simply go into all of them, but I think you get what I'm saying. It hasn't happened. So I think similar will apply to AI. There's a lot of other considerations and factors that go into whether or not AI will ever start replacing developers. It's not a simple question of can it write the code or not. So yeah, very curious to see what other people think here, because obviously this is me just making some assumptions, some thoughts, some postulations based on my gut. And I could be wrong, I could be right. I think really it's impossible to say without attaching timelines to it. But I think in a meaningful time scale, let's say the next 10 years, I'm still pretty confident that developers won't be replaced significantly to the point where it's no longer a viable industry to get into. What do you think? Very curious to see what others are thinking on this topic. Okay, hopefully you pulled something out of that video. Maybe you agree, disagree. Either way, we'll catch you in the next one. And hopefully the sun is shining like it is here, wherever you are. It's a beautiful spring day. See you on the next one.